I am City Councilman at Large for the City of Wilmington, Michael Brown, and I'm here again with another candidate for Republican office for Insurance Commissioner. And this young man is he's hit the ground running. He works here in Wilmington, and a lot of folks see him downtown walking with a big smile, and he's always saying hello to folks, even if he don't know them. I've been around him, and I said, well, who's that? He said, I don't know. I'm just saying hello because I like to say hello to folks. He's a people's person. And so being a people's person, you know, it drew me to him as well. We had a convention down in Rehoboth. I had already heard about him. I met him about a year ago at an affair. And I was very interested. I was like, another African-American Republican, that's not afraid to come out and be seen. There are a lot of African Americans and minority Republicans. Lot just they don't have the time, but they are willing to help and be supportive. They don't have the time to be as vocal on issues, but we have Ben Mobley, and he's with us, and he's running for Delaware State Insurance Commissioner. Welcome again. You've been on the show before.
Yes, sir, Councilman.
You was with State Senator Copeland. Now you're with City Councilman Mike Brown.
Yes, sir.
You all right. You pull us together. You can do that thing, man.
We try. We always try. So, you know, the biggest key for us is to get out there. We have a message, and delivering that message to you, the folks here in the city of Wilmington and around the state, that we want to impart some real change.
Let me ask you this, then. What made you want to run for Insurance Commissioner?
Well, really it was three reasons. First and foremost, my career for the last 11 years, coming up on 12 years, I've worked in the private sector for the fourth largest financial services company in the country. So having that experience working directly with corporations, families, nonprofits, you name it, helped me to understand clearly what the issues are within insurance, which is mainly, Ben, the costs are too high, and Ben, I don't understand half of what these insurance policies are saying to me. So that helped me to get a clear voice of what consumers, what citizens, and what voters are looking for, and I believe that we have those solutions to get that done.
So in essence, though, you know, folks might want to hear more about what experience you bring to the table. You just talked about a little tit of that. Can you go a little bit?
Well, if you consider this, you know, as a financial consultant with that financial services firm for the last 12 years, I've had the opportunity to work with, you know, families, nonprofits, community organizations, you name it. I think that has given me an experience because when you sit down with those types of entities face to face, you understand two sides. You understand, number one, that insurance companies aren't these big evil corporations that we typically make them out to be. I myself have been involved recently in a couple of accidents, and let me just say, God bless insurance, because I could only imagine what it would have cost me if I had to pay for everything out of pocket. But likewise, I also understand what the citizen is asking for, and what the citizen is asking for is, hey Ben, for the last 11 years, costs are too high, and I don't understand what I'm getting into when I hop into this insurance coverage. And even furthermore, as a private citizen, you know, I work in a private industry. I have a young family, my beautiful wife, and 3 children. And I can say, as just a citizen, I've been impacted by some of the regulations and some of the goings on within the insurance industry. So I think what I bring to this race is citizen-driven leadership that recognizes what the average citizen here in Delaware is facing.
Well, let me ask you this: many in Wilmington are concerned about credit scores being used to define when they go and get the insurance. Or what do you for their cars, determining the cost? What do you how do you determine that?
Well, there's really two things. First and foremost, I completely disagree with the use of credit scores when calculating auto insurance rates here in the state of Delaware. I believe firmly that when you're coming off of a recession like we are here in the state, where, as my good friend Jeff Craig, who's running for governor, has stated, where you're in a state where you have 30,617 unemployed citizens here in the state of Delaware, well, guess what? When you don't have a job, you don't have money. When you don't have money to pay those bills, your credit is going to suffer. And a lot of those people are suffering because of the recessionary hangover that we seem to be having here in the state 4 years later. So I completely disagree with its usage. However, I think some of the solutions that you can provide when it comes to credit are two things. First and foremost, I think that as a state, we need to adopt a choice method of auto insurance. Right now, Delaware offers one type of insurance, one size fits all, which is called a tort policy that covers personal injury and everything like that.
Yeah.
If you look at our neighboring states to the north, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania and New Jersey offer a choice state. They're considered choice states, which means that they offer not only a full tort policy like Delaware, but they also offer a limited tort policy that covers hospital costs, expenses, but it does not cover personal injury lawsuits. Well, in the state of Pennsylvania, it's calculated that those types of policies save citizens 15% less than what the full tort coverage policies would. And obviously, I grew up in a family where different strokes for different folks. And I believe that when you can see policies that will keep you legal and cost 15% less, that's an economic number that can help both consumers, citizens of all varying types of economics levels.
Well, let me ask you this. What are some of the ways that if elected, you could help reduce the cost?
Well, the biggest thing comes back down to what we need here in Delaware. And what we need here in Delaware are two things. We need choice, which means that you, the citizen, have a number of options that you have to which to choose from in order to get your health insurance coverage, auto insurance coverage, you name it. Two, the second part that we need to look at is also education. I believe a lot of these regulations are not stated to us in common man's language. It's stated in language that a very small percentage, lawyers and judges, tend to understand, and that pretty much takes the consumer out of the driver's seat. So if elected, my administration is going to focus in on providing Delaware citizens with more choices and more options for which you have to choose for your health insurance and other insurance rates. And in addition to that, being out in the community in this statewide office called the Insurance Commissioner and bringing a message of education, helping you to understand what exactly is insurance, how it impacts you, and what those coverages and those types of coverages best fits for you and your specific family's needs.
Well, let me ask you again, and tell us in a comparison, how do your solutions differ with the Democrats vying for the insurance commission?
Well, I come from a Democratic family, obviously.
There's three people out there running. There's the incumbent.
Four.
Or there's four Democrats.
Yes.
The incumbent and three other folks.
Yes.
Now, everybody got their own thing to explain to them about their differences and how they would do and run the insurance office. What's yours?
Well, the biggest difference between myself and my opponents is simple. We both agree that we want to make sure that every single citizen amongst every single economic level has access to health insurance coverage. Where we disagree is how we get about to getting those solutions. What my Democratic opponents typically feel through their policies is that by controlling and regulating the insurance industry here in Delaware, that's somehow going to make people feel secure. What I propose and what I look at is if you provide people with choice and education, then you empower them to make decisions for themselves based on their specific family dynamics. And if you look here in the state of Delaware, we've had 8 years worth of control and regulation from our Democratic friends who supposedly have come out in support of you, the consumer. The results have been pretty icky. For one, since 2003, health insurance rates here in the state of Delaware have risen over 51%. The American Medical Association has ranked Delaware as the third least competitive health insurance market in the country. In addition to that, Councilman, Delaware also is ranked as having the 9th most expensive auto insurance market here in the country. Private employees that work for private employers here in the state of Delaware spend on average over 20% of their income on healthcare premiums and deductibles. And one final number is that as a small business owner, whom I think we all agree is what helps to drive jobs and drives the market, Delaware is the 10th most expensive small business health insurance market in the country. So when you look at those solutions, it appears to me that control and regulation has not worked for you. Historically, what has worked is competition and education. If you look at AT&T back in the early 80s, we used to have a monopoly, right? Well, the government came in and they broke up that monopoly, thus providing you, the citizens, with more choices. If you look at phone insurance, if you look at phone rates today are extremely cheap. Take a look at televisions as well. Also take a look at computers. All technologies that when they first came out were high cost technologies, but through competition have allowed them to be low cost and allowed them to be purchased amongst all economic levels. In addition to that, if you look at the car buying experience, and if my mom is watching this, I'm sorry, Mom, I have to tell the story. Back in 1981, my mother bought a Pinto, okay? I would venture
I remember that car.
Yeah, I do too, but for a very short period of time because that car didn't last too long.
Right,
but,
right.
I'm quite sure that if the Kelley Blue Book, the way that it exists today, where you can find information out about manufacturers, the cost of parts, were available back in 1981, my mother probably would not have purchased that car because she would have had the education and the information to make an informed decision for herself and for her family needs. So I think that by providing those ways, when you look at choice and when you look at providing people with education, historically it's always proven to be a low cost, free market, consumer-driven way of solving cost issues. You show me any market in the world where I have not increased competition in education, and I'll show you a market that has not presented itself with choice and with education.
You laid that out real good, man.
I try, sir.
You laid that out real good. That was all right. Let me ask you something else, then.
Yes, sir.
I've heard you mention citizen-driven leadership of Delaware. Explain that concept.
Well, the concept of citizen-driven leadership is the fact that I am a consumer. I think that ultimately when you get into politics, and this is one of the reasons that I hopped into this race, over the last couple of years, I'm tired of looking at my television, finding about the infighting between Republicans and between Democrats. What most of us here in the city of Wilmington, what most of us here in the state of Delaware would prefer is to have leaders offer us common sense policies. Regardless of whether or not we agree with certain things or not agree, what we want to hear are the facts. Citizen-driven leadership is all about presenting facts to people, informing you, educating you, empowering you to have the information that all of us have in order to make informed decisions for you and for your family. So when I look at citizen-driven leadership, this is leadership not based on the political parties. This is not leadership based on who the biggest company is that's funding your campaign. It's based on what the folks at home right here in the city of Wilmington, 8th and Washington, you name it, are experiencing in their homes. And when you pull that camera back, hopefully it's not zoomed in on me too much right now, but if you pull that camera back, what we all notice at the end of the day is what's everyone concerned with? Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, Libertarian. What everyone's concerned with at the end of the day, Councilman, is how am I going to keep a roof over my family's head? How am I going to keep food over the table? How am I going to be able to afford my bills? How am I going to be able to put money away for my kids to go to college? How am I going to be able to take money and put that towards the institutions and the organizations that I value, that I believe that will help to spread the moral messages that I grew up believing in? This is at the end of the day what most people are concerned with. So when I say citizen-driven leadership, at the end of the day, this is what I want to focus in on, which is improving your standard of living through lowering costs and increasing your understanding of what's out there and how that impacts you and your family's specific needs.
Ben, what do you feel is the biggest reason for high health insurance premiums right here in Delaware?
Well, Councilman, there's really two reasons. The first and foremost, when you look at it, is a lack of choice. As I mentioned earlier, Delaware has the third least competitive health insurance market in the country. That you buy, that you're not given some sort of options that show here are all of the services offered, 2, here are what's involved in those services, and ultimately 3, here's the cost of those services. So by having a lack of menu, a lack of options for people to choose from, it drives up the costs. The second part that I think helps to drive up health insurance costs here in the state of Delaware is over-regulation. First and foremost, over-regulation, we need to take a look at Delaware's unique demographics. Delaware's demographics are this, folks. The biggest employer in the state of Delaware is the state of Delaware. And how are state employees compensated? By you, private citizens, through your state tax dollars. 2, in addition to that, dangerous number, 1 in every 4 people here in the state of Delaware are on Medicaid. So when you look at the demographics of Delaware, here we are, we're a population of less than 1 million. Our top employer is not participating in private insurance, and 25% of our population is also not participating in private insurance, leaving the middle class to get squeezed. And isn't this a concept that Democrats talk about all the time? Well, this is a concept that I think is a problem. I think what common sense policies and leadership needs to recognize is that we don't want to over-regulate those insurance companies, because from a business standpoint, when insurance companies and other companies look at Delaware, they see a limited number of people to which to compete for their services. So we need to start creating an atmosphere that encourages and sparks competition for companies to come into Delaware and say, you know what? I want to compete for your dollars, and here's a way in which we can compete for your dollars. These companies over here right now, they're saying that they want to check your credit for auto insurance rates. Me, company B, who's trying to get a leg up here in Delaware, I'm going to offer it out to the citizens by saying, hey, I'm not going to use credit check in applying for scores. This allows free competition that's not regulated by the government, but is driven by you, the consumer, and the citizen of Delaware.
Let me ask you this, and I don't mean to, because you're talking some good stuff there. There's over 30,000 folks in Delaware without insurance.
Yes.
Can that be fixed?
I think it can be fixed, but the problem is, where do you fix that at? We need to understand here in the state of Delaware what our office allows and does not allow us to do. The Insurance Commissioner's Office is a non-taxpayer funded office whose primary job, Councilman, is to oversee, to regulate, to make sure that those companies that are offering insurance here in the state of Delaware are able to deliver on those promises to you, the citizen. That's essentially what the Insurance Commissioner's Office does. What we do, on the other hand, is we can propose legislation, but we can't force legislation through. I think the only way that you're going to be able to solve getting 100% of people in Delaware protected is not necessarily in this office, but it more speaks to what the governor's office can do, what the U.S. Senator's office can do, what the United States Representative's office is going to do. Because obviously, based on the income that we receive here in Delaware, it's not enough to take care of every single individual here in the state of Delaware just based on our revenues. So we're going to need some federal help. And the good part about having common sense leadership is that you recognize, like my mom used to always tell me, son, always recognize the things that you can control and be wise enough also to recognize the things that you can't. So my job as insurance commissioner is to propose free market solutions that help consumers to purchase insurance and use my voice and my understanding of what you, the folks here in Delaware, are experiencing to help propose legislations that provide you once again with more choice and forces government to make an investment in you as far as your education and your understanding of the insurance industry, its coverages, and how that relates to you and to your family.
In closing, I got one more question. How can you help guide a small business person who needs to get insurance for not only he and her family or their family, but their employees? Would they be able to come to your office and ask you for specific guidance in terms of what's best insurance in order for them to have for their employees, or so they don't go under, they don't get broke? How can you help regulate that or give them some kind of information and guidance?
Okay. Well, it's funny that you mention that, because when I look at that industry, when I see the Insurance Commissioner's Office here in the state of Delaware, currently it's a very quiet office. It's an office to where most people, when I say insurance commissioner, they go, well, who's that? What do you do? Most people don't understand the office, and I believe that I blame leadership for that, because leadership, when you have a statewide office, has a voice to be able to express loudly what the concerns of its citizens and people here within the state of Delaware have. I believe that the first thing that you can do for the small business insurance, I would like for people to first call the Insurance Commissioner's Office. Most people, when they have a problem with their insurance, the first place that they call is the insurance company. Well, I want to promote the fact, and I want to make sure that the Insurance Commissioner's Office is visible enough and to staff it enough with good employees that people know immediately to call the Insurance Commissioner's Office. Folks, I am on your side. I am an advocate for your beliefs. I grew up in a very middle-class family. I'm still very middle-class myself. I recognize the fact that we don't understand all things, so it's good to have advocates on your side that are going to be able to be there to supply information and education for you and for your family to make informed decisions. To me, the way that you simplify it is much like the way the state of Massachusetts is. You create a simplistic website where it says, for example, let's say we're all going out there and we're going to get health insurance costs. Wouldn't it be good information to know what the average cost of health insurance here in the state of Delaware is? Wouldn't it also, if you take it even further, wouldn't it also be good to understand where your company and where the rates that you're looking at, how they compare to those average costs, up or down, are here in the state of Delaware, and have it someplace specific and central to look at? I would like to design a website to where people can go to immediately and say, look, I'm looking for, what's the average cost of an annual physical at a doctor here in Delaware? where does my doctor rank in regards to that annual cost? So that I can start putting more power in your hand on what you're actually spending with your dollars for services, so that you can start getting upset and start voicing your opinion and doing what all consumers have done in history, which is change the service model. I grew up, and you probably remember this, I used to go to stores like Woolworth and Blockbuster growing up. Those stores don't exist today, not because the government came in and regulated those industries. It's because you were presented with a choice of a new model that you found worked better for you, and you used your own dollars to put into those new models, which took dollars away from those poor service models that you no longer had use of. That's why Woolworth and Blockbuster is not around, not from government mandated policies, but from you, the consumer, deciding what was best for you and your family. Folks, I want to give you that freedom. I want to give you that empowerment. I want to give you that opportunity to start making those decisions for yourself. As government, I will give you a fair playing field, and also make sure that I go around this city and you guys be forced to hear my big mouth all the time about what insurance is, how that relates, things that you should look for, opportunities that you have to reduce the overall cost to your coverage, because there are some plans out there that companies put out there. My job is to educate you. That's what government should be here for, to educate and to empower the citizens of Delaware.
Hey, that was real good. Listen, in 1 minute now, because I want to bring back on the Lieutenant Governor candidate, and I want you to stay, but in 1 minute, look into that camera and finish and complete, because you sold me, you know. To ask them for their help and support, and tell them why they should vote for you in 1 minute.
Okay, you got it. I'll try my best. Folks, I'm a Republican running for insurance commissioner. My name is Ben Mobley. I reach out for your support because as a middle class individual, I recognize that the only way that we're going to be able to get out of the doldrums that impact not only middle class communities, but minority communities, is through empowering you with education and ownership, not only of your own money, but also on the issues. I don't believe in you having to come to me every 2 or 4 years begging for me to be in office so that your standard of living doesn't increase. I want to empower you to fish for yourselves, to go out there and to seek information, just like our parents have taught us year in and year out, the same way that you're teaching your children right now, to go out and to seek information to help you create decisions for yourself. I ask for your support because I believe in empowering your communities. I believe in creating opportunities for citizens to be able to make decisions for themselves. And ultimately, I believe that all of us can help each other if we sit back there and we start putting our best foot forward to supplying people and supplying those less fortunate with the information that they need to succeed here in this life. This is not about Democrat, this is not about Republican, this is not about Libertarian. This is about having citizen-driven leadership. That's what Ben Mobley stands for in this insurance commissioner's race. That's why Ben Mobley is humbly asking for your support. God bless you all.
And you see his information up on the screen. It was displayed on the screen how to contact him through telephone number and through email and website.